that you are able to defend yourself, then you're not going to be a target anymore. And I think that that's one of the issues. And just to briefly, and then we can get more into the Spencer Cornelia case later. But I think that Spencer is actually making a big mistake, because I read one of his comments under your video where it said something like, "Oh, it's destroying my life," and then he mentioned that if they sued you, like you would have to prove that you did it without malice. Like that's actually incorrect. Like,
Oh yeah, he told me that if Masterworks sued me, he
yeah,
was talking about Masterworks could sue me and they'd win and all that.
Yeah, I mean that's not true. Like well, I mean, again, like I'm only referring to like his specific comment. So in his comment, he said that you would have to show that you made the claims, or you made the statements without malice. Well, malice only comes into play if the person is a public figure or a limited person public figure. So someone like Logan Paul, who's kind of like a celebrity, or someone who might be like have a huge audience within their specific niche, you can then ask the judge to label them or to establish them as a limited person public figure, because maybe they have like 1 million followers or 1 million subscribers on YouTube in like the day trading space. So therefore, if the judge believes that they're an authority or they're like a limited purpose public figure, then the plaintiff, so not you as a defendant, the plaintiff actually has a higher ground to prove that your statements are actually defamatory. They would have to prove that what you said was made with malice. So, and Masterworks is a company. It's not, a public figure or anything like that. So, I mean, he was off about that. But the other thing is, I think that with Spencer, by him saying that, and I went through the docket, and I actually don't believe that his case is that the case against him is frivolous at all. Now, going back to what I said before, I think it's important when looking at people to look at their intentions. And I truly believe that Spencer is a good person with good intentions. I know that he made some mistakes with FTX, and he probably felt, I've never spoken to him, so I don't know him, but he's probably friends with those people from FTX. And I think he was part of like that agency, creators agency, where he's that he can't say anything bad about them. So my gut feeling is he probably felt incredibly conflicted. And I'm not saying that people should like give him a pass or anything like that. But what I am saying is that it's really important not to like label people like black, like black and white, like good or bad. Like there's a gray area, and look at the total body of work. I think like Tupac said something where he said like that he wants to be judged by his actions fully. So don't just take like a moment in time where Tupac was like put in prison by like and he said something to the judge, and the judge wouldn't even like look at him, and he was put into like Clinton Correctional Facility. Like you don't want to judge, or someone like Mike Tyson, where his daughter died in from like a treadmill accident, and then he spent time in prison, but he's rehabbed his image, and he's a very, very valuable member of society. So I think that it's very important not to judge someone just by like by like their worst times. And I think that with Spencer, overall, I do feel for him, because I think that he's a valuable member of the community, and I think that he means well. But just because you mean well doesn't mean that you're going to be perfect. It's human to make a lot of mistakes. Nobody's perfect. And if you think that, then you just don't know about like the other things that they've done where they were fortunate, where they never got in trouble. But I think that Spencer, in my opinion, what he's doing wrong is, I think that by writing stuff like, "Oh, it ruined my life," then that really like makes him a bigger target, because if I'm reading that, then many other people are reading that, and he has people that don't like him because he made videos about them. And the worst thing that could possibly happen is that he is sued and then he loses, because if that happens, then I mean it makes him a big target in the future.
Interesting.
And
that's go ahead.
And the problem with him, with his case, is that it's actually not frivolous. I spent like 2 hours yesterday, like going through the docket just because I was curious. And what happened was the person that he had on his show, they explicitly said that guy Derek Moneyberg from like maybe he worked at like Real Social Dynamics or something. But there were two things that really stuck out. I guess like maybe two and a half. The first was that the person claimed that Derek Moneyberg, and that's not his name, but I don't remember his name, like Dale something.
I can tell you. Yeah, it's Dale Buchowski is his real name.
Yeah.
Yep.
So they claimed that he didn't graduate from the Chicago Booth of Business. Like I think it's like an MBA program from University of Chicago. And then the second thing that they claimed, and I believe they claimed this numerous times, was that Dale or Derek Moneyberg was like that he was arrested multiple times for like running a drug house in and those type of things, they actually are like pretty black and white, where it's either true or it's false. Like you either graduated from you got your MBA from University of Chicago, which I believe is almost true. I didn't look at the exhibits of the complaint, but it said in the exhibits in the initial complaint that they had like attached some evidence like of his diploma or something. So that was completely false. And then additionally, like anyone can say that like this person was arrested, like now with like fake news and everything, but like there's a record of it if you were arrested or not, and he wasn't arrested. So those two things, as long as he's able to show specifically that those claims, and I think that there were like 4 or 5 like causes of action or complaints in there, but those two things like stuck out to me. And as long as Dale is able to show that one that they were wrong, and that they were untruthful, and that also that it hurt his business, then he has a legitimate claim. The other thing which did stick out was I think Spencer made a comment, whether it be on Instagram DMs or maybe it was in one of his videos, where he said something like that he doesn't like Dale, or like that he nominated him for like the fake guru of the year, like something like that. That's not going to look good in front of a judge or in front of a jury, because it shows that like not only did he allow like this false information to be disseminated on his channel, but at the same time it might seem like Spencer Cornelia has like a personal vendetta against this person. And even though he's probably not going to have to show malice, it's not going to help his case, because it's going to make it look like that he was targeting this guy.
Wow. I just want to say, man, that was excellent. That was very insightful. You really just taught me a lot. You taught a lot of people a lot, and I appreciate that. How did you access the docket? I found some free sources online, but it sounds like you really like went through the source. Did you actually pay like the money to get it?
Okay, so here's an interesting. Well, okay, 2 caveats, and one caveat, and then we'll go to like how to access it. So the first thing is, I want to be clear that I'm not defending Moneyberg. I don't think he's a good person. Okay, like I actually believe, as I mentioned before, I believe that Spencer is a good person who has made mistakes, and I think that long term Spencer is going to be fine. Okay, I'm just looking at it from like a legal perspective based upon from my cases, like appearing in front of the judge, et cetera, how they're going to look at things, and obviously it depends upon which judge they get, et cetera, or which judge is litigating this. The other thing regarding your question, so you can go to pacer.gov, and then I think that there's something called like case locator, and then in there should be something under that says like party search, and in there you can put like Cornelia and then Spencer, and then you can search for the federal case. Now, Pacer is only for federal cases. If you want state cases, then you have to go to like the online court system of the local jurisdiction. But Pacer is amazing for federal cases. Regarding paying money, I think Pacer allows you $30 every single quarter for free. So it's going to show you that it's billing you. But as long as you don't, and I think it's like 10 cents a page, as long as you don't spend more than $30 every 3 months, then you can download the files, and then it'll reset after 3 months. So so you don't have to pay anything.
Okay.
Oh, and then another really interesting thing on Spencer's case is, and again, I didn't go through like all the docket because it's very long. I mean, when he said,
yeah, there's a lot of motions and stuff. There's a lot.
Yeah.
It's been 2 years. Yep.
When he said that it was 250,000, I believe him because it looks like 250,000. So he actually filed, or no, I believe that he agreed to like a joint protection order with the opposing party. And let me tell you why this is very relevant, and also let me tell you why I believe this is one reason why parties should just talk to themselves and also be very careful about making these type of videos. Spencer probably thought when he was making the video that he's going to get like a lot of views and that his probability of getting sued, etc., is going to be very low. Maybe he got a cease and desist letter. Maybe he ignored it. I'm sure that there was an opportunity to settle the case from the beginning, or at least like pretty close. I mean, I have no inside knowledge of it, like pretty early on, because Moneyberg, I'm sure, doesn't want to spend $150,000, and the case is up in the air. He also doesn't want to go through the discovery process, which I'm sure that he has things to hide as well. So nobody wants to go through that process. So for some reason, the case wasn't settled. But there was a joint motion where they agreed to a protective order. And the language of the protective order doesn't just extend to the existing litigation. Rather, it's a permanent protection order. So the things that are produced in discovery, they explicitly wrote in the protection order that Spencer is not even going to see many of those documents because they're just going to label it confidential for attorney's eyes only, and those documents can never be passed on to Spencer. So Spencer probably thought that, okay, worst case scenario, I get sued, then I'll be able to obtain all these documents and I'll be able to do damage to this guy. But the reality is that that's not how it played out. And my gut feeling on why and I believe it was a joint protective order, but I believe that the reason why Spencer agreed to that is because his case is not nearly as strong as he's kind of like portraying it. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't really watch much of his content, but I believe he's kind of portraying it as saying that he's been sued by like a fake guru and it's a frivolous case. But from me reading it, that's not true in my opinion. Like, I don't believe it's frivolous. And also, if he truly believed that, then he's not going to sign a joint protective order because he wouldn't have to, like he would just say, okay, like he could just tell them, all right, you're welcome to petition the judge and then ask for a protective order, but it's not something that I'm going to voluntarily agree to. Those are just my thoughts. I could be way off, and maybe if he's watching this, I'm not saying I don't have any inside knowledge, so you probably know more than I do. But in general, if you have a lot of leverage in the case, then you're not going to voluntarily sign that if that's actually what he did, because it kind of defeats the purpose of you deciding to litigate the case anyway, because even if you win, you're not going to be able to disclose any information that you received in discovery.
Yeah, just based on my conversations with Spencer, I just can't imagine a situation where he had a chance to settle or talk things out and he didn't. I think the Dale guy is so upset with him, and this is just me speculating, I don't know, but just speculating, I think he probably didn't want to talk to Spencer. Oh, actually, no, you know what? Spencer did say it publicly. I think it was on Graham Stephan's channel, the guy's coffee hour. I think Spencer did say that he reached out to Dale. I think he did. He reached out to Dale and he got like an automated message. This is what Spencer said publicly, by the way. But yeah, he said like he got like an automated message like, hey, sign up for my whatever. So I guess he wasn't able to get in contact with him, I guess. And just based on my conversations with him, I wouldn't be surprised if Dale didn't want to settle. He wanted to take the thing the whole way through because Dale does have money.
That I've heard of that happening a few times, actually. Mm-hmm. It's where it's kind of like the scorn lover, so to speak, and just people are so angry and their feelings are hurt so much where they just want to like destroy the other person. I probably had that happen to me, but what really happens is if the person doesn't listen, then if you litigate the case well, then they're going to be forced to listen because they're not going to have a choice. Like initially, when you're engaged in a lawsuit, the plaintiff will always have the advantage, because even if you file like a motion to dismiss, the judge has to weigh the claims in the motion to dismiss in the light that's most favorable to the plaintiff. So it's pretty rare, unless it's something where like it's outside the statute of limitations or something, or it's like cut and dry, that the judge is going to grant a a 12b6 or a motion to dismiss. But if I was Spencer, and I know that once lawyers are engaged, you kind of like, you can't really like reach out to the other party. I mean, I guess you could reach out to Dale, even though they have attorneys, but it's kind of like bad form to do that. But I would have just lawsuits have a tendency to waver and like vacillate. Like, the plaintiff has the edge in the beginning, and then maybe they file for like a TRO, and then if they lose that hearing, then the defendant has like a tremendous amount of leverage, and then maybe the defendant will then file like a countersuit or a counterclaim against like the plaintiff. I think that there comes a time where everyone wants to stop litigating, because it's very stressful, it's very expensive, and it takes up a lot of time, where we're productive people, and Spencer could have spent a lot more time, focusing on real estate, focusing on YouTube. And I'm sure that Dale could have done the same thing. So there comes a time, even in the beginning, if they're not open, where they're just angry, where their anger is going to be mollified and soothed a little bit, and then it might be best for Spencer to reach out to him directly. Because, hey, some attorneys are super shady. Like, some of them, they don't want you to settle because you're their meal ticket. And sometimes clients that they can definitely get a piece of content removed, that the probability is like 95%, and it's only going to cost them like $20,000. Next thing they know, they've spent over $100,000, nothing's got removed, and they're looking at a counterclaim or another separate lawsuit for things that they've done wrong. So yeah, I always think it's best for people to not let feelings get involved, and to try to settle things if possible.